Yeah. Woo. What is up? Welcome. I'm your host. I'm Will Bryant. And this is just another episode of what might be. You hear that? You hear that? That's a nice hard seltzer. This might be the last episode of Big Kid with Will Bryant. I know what you're thinking. Why? What in the world is going on? Have no fear. Relax. Don't be so dramatic. Calm down. I know every woman that just heard that got triggered. I just gaslit half of you guys. Most of you guys, actually. I gaslit my entire audience within my first minute. Minute and a half. I'm very proud of that. Stop being so dramatic. Relax. Don't be a drama queen. You're crazy. You're going crazy. Just listen. Why am I saying what I'm saying? It's because I had this moment. I don't want to call it an epiphany, because that sounds too grandiose. That sounds too bombastic. And you know me, I'm not any of those things. I'm the most humble person in the world. Whenever my girl tells me that I'm being too much, which is often. She says it often. I don't understand why. She always says, "Well, you're being too much." And I say, "Wrong. I'm being the perfect amount." The perfect amount, Will Bryant. If I was a UFC fighter, Bruce Buffer would be like, "And fighting out of the red corner, from Queens, New York, weighing in at 165 pounds, he is the reigning, defending, some shit champion of the world, the perfect amount, Will Bryant." And I'd come out, I'd fucking fist bump Bruce Buffer, and I'd look at my girl, and I'd be like, "You see? I told you. I'm not dramatic. I'm not too much." So, it's because of that I won't call it an epiphany. I'm not going to call it this come to Jesus moment. But I did have a moment where I kind of realized I just don't think I want to continue calling this podcast Big Kid with Will Bryant. see how I did I like hooked you in with a little fucking misdirection there. You thought I was stopping this show? No. I thought I told you that we won't stop. And by we, I mean me. I don't identify as a we. I'm just a me. Why did I say it like that? Great. Canceled episode 39 for fucking appropriating Italian accents. Maybe it was just a Mario thing. He did it first. So, why am I thinking this way? For my day ones, for my day ones, my Usos out there, they might remember way back when, earlier this year, I had a little bit of a different idea, vision, if you will, for what I was going to do with this podcast. Excuse me, I'm still getting shocker, getting over a cold. Shocker. I know. I had a little bit of a different vision for this, and originally I thought I was going to focus this show, this podcast, these episodes more on my commentary and reaction revolving more comic and pop culture stuff. In fact, the very first episode I did of this, if you scroll way back on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, like and subscribe, review, all that shit, you'll see that my very first episode, I believe, was about Wakanda Forever being available on Disney Plus. James Gunn's announcement about the future of the DCU. Some other shit, I don't know. Early on, I had an episode about like Harry Potter and the video game and racism in Harry Potter. And then I even had these are not available online anymore. I might release them at some point in the future. But I even, for the first, I think, I don't know, maybe month and a half, 5 or 6 weeks, something like that, I had a second episode of Big Kid with Will Bryant where I was actually reviewing an entire season of X-Men, the animated series, every week. Some of the longer seasons I did in 2 parts. And my plan was to keep going with animated shows and reviewing them a season or half season at a time. I was going to go next to, I think, Batman. But then 2 things started happening. First, the animated show portion, the me recapping a season or half a season of an animated show became way too time consuming and started to feel way too much like a job. It stopped being fun very fast. That's probably on me for trying to squeeze in a season per week and keeping up that schedule. I think it's a good idea, but I think it's something that should be done. Like, I should do it with plenty of time, bank the episodes, and then release them 1 week at a time without having to fucking watch them in 1 week myself. 13 episodes of something or 20 something episodes in a week is a lot. The other thing that happened with Big Kid with Will Bryant is that I had so much shit going on in my personal life that it became difficult for me to sit here and talk into a microphone and look into a camera and talk about fucking whatever Kevin Feige is deciding to do with the next Avengers movie. You know, like, some of you guys that have been around for the era or the time of Big Kid where the shift started will remember I was, going through some shit at work. I was unhappy with where I was employed, and there was stuff that was dragging me down that I was actually starting to be very open with on this podcast. And then that led me to exploring avenues of using this show to almost just kind of be a therapy session sometimes, as it was at that time. And I got a lot of shit off my chest in general about like what I've seen in bars and gone through in bar culture and bar life. And something happened. 2 things happened there. One, I never enjoyed recording the podcast more than when I started that. When I started talking about me and myself and what I was going through. I didn't enjoy it more until then. And the other thing that happened is those episodes were the ones that bumped me up in in listens and whatnot. Though that seems to be what you guys were more interested in. It was what got me more reaction and then I don't know what the word. I forgot what the word is. Activity or whatever. Blah. It resonated more, I think, with people than, is Tony Stark gonna come back or something? Is Robert Downey Jr. returning to the franchise? You guys don't want to hear me talk about that, and I get it. And you know what? I don't know if I want to talk about that for that long. That's why I stopped. You know what I want to talk about? Me. You know what I have been talking about? Me and my life and what I've been going through and how you guys have. This has been a recorded account of my journey from somewhere I was unhappy at to getting a job, to leaving a job that I was unhappy with and landing a job somewhere very prestigious that you guys heard me want it. I quit my job and my new job are two of like my most successful episodes. Like you guys were there for that transition. Those were back-to-back episodes. I quit my job and my new job, back-to-back episodes. So you've been with me every step of the way that I've been a bartender at the Comedy Cellar, the fucking premier comedy club in the country. Or one of. Don't want anyone from the Comedy Store getting mad at me. And now, I mean, I've been open and honest about my trials and tribulations as not just a bartender, but as a DJ. And as a person. And now you guys are experiencing with me in real time my journey to become a comedian, a stand-up comic. These are all different facets about me that I'm using this podcast to kind of release about. And I'm just lucky enough that there's a handful of you, that there's some of you out there that like hearing that. So I feel like there was a while back that this podcast stopped really being about the quote unquote big kid in me. I'm not reviewing cartoons from my childhood anymore. I'm not talking about superhero movies anymore. I'm talking about me and my life, and if anything, how I'm evolving and growing up. Not really a big kid anymore. So that's why I had this moment where I was like, yeah, I just don't think that it should be called Big Kid with Will Bryant anymore. This podcast has been me telling you about me and my life. And essentially, it's all about Will Bryant. Egotistical, self-centered old me. And how do I start off every episode and enter every episode, essentially? I'm your host. I'm Will Bryant. I'm Will Bryant on Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok, Twitch, Threads, Spotify, YouTube. And that's what this show is about. It's everything that goes into making me. So I believe that from hopefully here on out, I gotta come up with some new artwork and or not me. I gotta have my AI come up with some more artwork and a little bit of a different design and hopefully with episode 40 next week we'll have a little bit of a soft rebrand reboot And it'll no longer be Big Kid. It'll no longer be Big Kid with Will Bryant. It'll just simply be I'm Will Bryant. Because week in and week out, I basically spend about an hour to an hour and a half talking to you guys about how I'm Will Bryant. It was a little mean of me to start off by saying that this is the last episode of Big Kid with Will Bryant, wasn't it? A little bit of a swerve there. A little bit of a twist. By the way, I'm drinking, for you guys not watching on YouTube, fuck you. Fuck you. Like and subscribe. Fuck you. For you guys not watching, this is, y'all heard of this? Flying Embers Hard Seltzer. Not a paid ad. Can be, though. Hit me up. Ojai Cali? Did I say that right? This is a guava jalapeno hard seltzer. 5% alcohol, 0 sugar, 0 carbs. There's also a watermelon chili and a pineapple cayenne, which I'm going to get down with today during this episode. I had almost an entire episode about how hard seltzers can fuck me up, but there's a reason. There's a reason I'm doing this, because if you guys remember from just last week, my comedy debut, by the way, I am fully aware that it sounds a little, I don't know, a little much. You know what? No, never too much. Never too much. Never too much. I know that it sounds a little, just a little, of me calling my this December 10th showcase my comedy debut. It makes it sound like I'm this fucking first round draft pick that's gonna, if it sounds like Victor Wembanyama is debuting for the Spurs, like that's a debut. I'm just fucking, if anything, I literally paid someone to let me do this in a month and a half from now. Not even a month and a half, about a month. Today's November 4th. And it's December 10th. December 10th. I go up. So the 0 carbs. Look, I'm very judgmental on myself, all right? Don't think I haven't noticed. I've got a little, extra cleavage the past couple of months, I think I probably put on a good 5 pounds in the past month or two. And you know what? If I'm going on stage, by the way, I'm wearing like a medium shirt today instead of a small so that I don't, this is deceiving, like now I look skinny, but like if I go like that, mira mis chinchis. Also body dysmorphia, I guess, like people at home are like, wow, what is wrong with you? Mental issues. You don't need a diet. You need a therapist. Well, fuck you too, all right? First time on stage, I think just for my own mental facilities, I'm going to hit a little bit of a diet right before. Maybe shed a few pounds right before I get on stage, and because if I bomb, I might as well look good doing it, right? I mean, right? Might as well look good doing it. I had my first class last Sunday. I'm recording and dropping this on a Saturday. So I'll have my second class tomorrow. We had homework for our very first class, and that was to come into class prepared with at least a minute worth of material. So Very professional burp on my part. Let me professionally chug the rest of this guava jalapeno. I already had a pineapple cayenne. By the way, these are not as spicy as you may think. There's just a very tiny hint of heat. I've had the pineapple cayenne. I just finished the guava jalapeno, so I will move on to the third flavor. Watermelon chili. Cheers. I got to get James on the podcast. One, because he's my friend, but two, because he's bringing so much tequila when we do it. I need it. I need it in my life. We had homework for the very first class. We had a 21-page pamphlet and homework to do. And that was that minute. I even, on top of the 21-page pamphlet, I watched an hour-long kind of, not monologue by him, but it was a class that he had taught earlier, and the idea was if we go in watching that, he can just go through any like quick things instead of having to reteach it on the first class. So class is very small. I think there was 10 of us for 3 hours. The reason for that is the teacher, Rick Chrome, who I spoke about last week, very well respected in the community and the business. There's a video on YouTube where he's being exalted and praised as a host and as a teacher, as an instructor, by comedians like Ray Romano, Bill Burr, Tom Papa. Tom Papa mentioned the class and mentioned him by name on an episode of Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan said something like, you can't really go anywhere and learn comedy. And Tom Papa was like, actually, the Comedy Cellar has a class by a master, Rick Chrome. He said that on the Joe Rogan podcast. So here I am on Big Kid with Will Bryant, soon to be simply I'm Will Bryant, saying firsthand, it was pretty awesome. But I mean, you ever been in a class where you're learning something that you want to know, that you want to learn, and that you are naturally excited about? Being in that class feels different than being in a class for, I don't know, fucking trigonometry, if that's not your thing. Like when I went back to school for music production and was learning all that stuff, it did not feel, most classes did not feel, laborious and taxing. So that was the case with this first class on Sunday, and I see that being the case for all the classes. I'm not going to go into details about what exactly we learned and talked about in class, because I feel like it's the same reason why you don't hear me ever mention comedians' material on this show. You don't hear me mention the conversations that comedians have on this show. There's a line that I walk recording this podcast and working at the Comedy Cellar and now taking a class at the Comedy Cellar, where I don't want to violate any sacred, unwritten trust or rules, I work in what I believe is considered a safe haven for comedians. So that's why I when I talk about my job, my experiences, it's with a little bit of vagueness. It's you're not going to hear me. I'll tell you, Hassan Minaj dropped by a couple of times this week, and Michelle Wolf dropped by a couple of times this week for some sets. It was really cool. I'm not going to tell you. And they had this joke that went like this, that's where you got to draw a line. So similarly, I'm going to talk about class, but I'm not going to tell you. And then he taught us that you do a joke by X, Y, and Z, and that there's blah, blah ways to do a joke and this, and that. Like, no, for that, you want to know that type of information? Then, you got to go to comedyseller.com, sign up for those classes. You got to hope that you make a class in time. Then you got to pay the man the money, all right? Because he's got to make a living too. I'm not about to take his class and then just fucking give all the details on this fucking podcast. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to talk to you about some other things. Let me talk to you. Yeah. When I was writing, I sat down at this very desk with this laptop that's right in front of me right now. And I started thinking about what the fuck to write about. This was before my first class ever. I have a bunch of ideas, premises that I had written down in my notes app on my iPhone from years ago to up to like last week. And as I went through most of them, I'd say half of them I didn't feel like were worth really exploring. Who knows? I didn't delete them because you never know. I felt like a lot of them had something there, but that I wasn't ready to get there yet with that specific premise or joke or example or bit or whatever. There were only a handful of things that I had written down that, if I'm being honest, because I always am on this show, that I felt were maybe easy enough, perhaps simple enough, or if I want to be a little bit more fair to myself, that I was most familiar with, that made it feel a little bit less daunting to use as a subject for my first joke ever. And I started to write down my first joke. And I kind of jumped between two subjects. I didn't know if I was going to do a subject about X or about a subject about Y. And here's the thing. Also, not going to tell you what the fuck my joke was. Because you know what? To see that, you got to see me perform it. Speaking of, I know that I said that my debut set, I should say, is December 10th. And I love and appreciate how many people have reached out and asked and said that they want to be there and asked for information about how to get tickets. I didn't know that there was going to be like that many people, I guess, that wanted it. I assumed a couple of you guys, but it was cool. Here's what I've been telling people that maybe I should have been a little bit more clear about. It's a friends and family event. It's not like open to everyone. It's not a huge venue. It's each one of the students has about 4 to 5 tickets allotted to them, if I'm not mistaken. And I would like it if I could have my mother and father in attendance. I think that would be nice, especially because, without going into detail, my dad gives me a lot of material. And there's a very good chance that I'll mention him on my first set, during my first set ever. So it'd be kind of cool if he was there to hear it. So my parents, my girl Val, of course, that's 3 right there. I might have 1 or 2 tickets left over after that. My stepbrother has already hit me up saying he wants to be there. We'll see. I told him if he gets off from work, then it's his. So that's potentially 4 right there. And that means maybe I have 1 extra after that. Now, there is a chance that if other people don't use all of theirs, that I may be able to claim some more, but I don't know if other people are going to try to claim more. It's very up in the air right now. I'll know more when December 10th comes around, or at least when the date gets closer. But for that reason, I can't. For as much as I love and appreciate you guys for reaching out and mentioning you want to be there to show support, it might not be possible for my very first set. What I want to do and the whole point of December 10th is that I will then have these 5 minutes that I can go out with and hit up open mics and maybe get a show or a spot here and there for. So hopefully very soon after that, I will have an opportunity to invite many more people to see me do what I do at a different venue. And hopefully you guys still want to be there to support in some way and somehow. And either way, the outreach, the gestures, the interest has not been taken for granted. I appreciate it from all you guys, truly. So back to this homework before I even had my first class. I went with very familiar things. And like I said, my dad gives me plenty of material. You know, oftentimes, I mean, even Val was like, "What are you going to do?" And I was like, "Probably something about my dad." And she was like, "Well, yeah, that makes perfect sense, actually." Don't worry. I have something about her, too, that I think worked pretty well. I technically we were supposed to come up with like a minute. I just wrote so much that it was probably, I worked a couple of hours, probably like 2 hours, maybe 3 hours on what would probably, if I like just read it from beginning to end, amount to about, I'd say 3 to maybe 5 minutes of material or of jokes. But here's the thing. Easily, you could cut away the fat from all of that, get rid of the shit that doesn't work, and I might have gotten 30 useful seconds out of it. Out of about 3 hours of work, I think I got a good 30 seconds. And that's the God's honest truth. Because y'all know I'm a God-fearing man. But that's no cap, as the kids say. I worked for hours last week, and I feel pretty good. I feel okay that I think I got 30 seconds of something I can work with. See, on my way to my first class last Sunday, I was a little early, so I stopped by at a deli to you could get like a bagel and just sit down there or whatever. And I took out my notes, and I actually added a bunch of shit to what I had planned to be my first joke. And I pretty much reworked what was a simple joke into like a longer bit, because I felt like I was cheating, because essentially my first joke is just something funny that I once heard someone say, and I felt like I was cheating because I didn't add a punchline myself. I just repeated it. So I tried to expand on it. I tried to add some more of myself, or not myself, but my, I guess, reaction to it, how it affected me, those things, and I added to that joke. Of course, I'll fast forward a little bit. Everything that I added in that fucking deli, when I went up on stage at the Comedy Cellar not the original room, but one of the 4 stages, and did my first ever attempt at this. Everything that Rick said I should cut out was everything I added at the deli. And I had this moment where I was like, damn, shouldn't have done that, but it was a teachable moment for me, obviously. And I'll get to that in just a minute. Before I did that, before I got up on that stage, we did, we had the intro with each other. Like I said, there was only 10 people there, a very small class. He does that so that he can spend a significant amount of time with each person. There are some other comedy classes in the city where they'll have 20, 30 people in the class. And it will be 2 hours long or something, This 3 hours, 10 people, plenty of time. He broke down types of jokes, types of punchlines, premises, ways to get there. We saw examples of them, videos of them, broke them down. It was something I wanted and needed. It was some sort of almost formulaic, scientific breakdown of a joke, like the anatomy of a joke, to try to help you understand how to come up with one yourself. And after he went over that for a while, that was when it was finally time for us 10 to go up on stage and deliver what we've been working on. I did not go first. I was far from first. And like I said, I started off with what I wrote, and most of it was what I added last minute at that deli. And immediately, Rick was just like, too much, don't need that, that's not, He laughed, and the class laughed at what I intended to be my punchline or my joke. And it was very simple and it was very easy. And then everything I added, because I felt like that laugh was cheap, was everything he said you don't need. And by the way, everything I added did not get the same laugh as that very first thing that I wrote. I had about 2 things that I said that got genuine laughs from both Rick and the class. And then a bunch of shit around it that didn't really. So I knew immediately. I was like, okay, I have something here with this line and here with that line. And the fucking 7 and 8 lines on top of it and under it for both can fucking go. Before I went up, before anyone went up, in case you're wondering, I wasn't nervous about going up to do this pretty much the whole week until we got to class time. And I didn't get nervous for why you may think. It wasn't because I had to go up and tell jokes. No, I'm all right with public speaking. I got nervous because I thought I was just going to forget what my jokes were. But when I saw that everyone was going up with like a notebook or a laptop, I was like, oh, okay. So I don't have to worry about that, at least. And it kind of alleviated a lot from me. I'm not going to lie, man. I thought that I was going to go up there and kill. That's how stupid I am. That's how... Have I hidden the fact that I'm egotistical, self-centered? Have I? I don't think so. I thought I was going to go up there and Rick was going to be like, you don't need this class at all. No, I didn't think that. But I did think I was going to do better than I did. And it was, man, it was so apropos that essentially me going against my gut is what kind of fucked me up. The shit that I wrote down when I sat and like worked on it for that hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, some of that was good. The shit that I wrote down last minute on the way to class because I second guessed myself, none of that is going to be in what anyone ever hears. I wasn't the worst person that went up. I don't think I was the best, but I definitely wasn't the worst. But I definitely felt, it felt weird. I got it. This is how I can describe how I felt. I got it right away. And let me explain what I mean by that. Let me start off by telling you what I don't mean. I don't mean that I instantly got comedy. I don't mean that I instantly understood this shit. No. Far from that. What I do mean when I say that I instantly got it, I instantly understood why this can be an obsession for somebody. Let me explain what I mean. The moment, not even the moment I got off stage, the moment that I heard Rick's feedback as I stood on stage, I wanted to take that feedback, use it, implement it, and edit what I had just spent hours working on the week prior, or throughout the week prior. The hours of work that I did to feel like I got 30 seconds of something that didn't suck, I immediately wanted to get back to work, get rid of all the bullshit, get rid of about 80% of what I wrote, focus on about the 10%, the 20% that I did right that I liked, and implement the feedback that I got. Immediately, I wanted to do that. Why? So that I could get back on that stage and do it again. To try it again. I feel like a boxer that went into a fight and lost, but knows why. And here's the thing. Here's the sick part about it. Imagine being a boxer that lost, understands why, and knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that the next time he steps in the ring, he's going to lose again. But he wants to. And he can't wait to. Because he's not going to lose the same way he did the first fight. He's going to lose a brand new way. He's going to lose a second way. And then what's going to happen? That boxer's going to get out of that ring. He's going to dust himself off and he's going to say, okay, I will never lose that first or that second way again. And I can't wait to lose a third way so that I could eliminate 3 ways of losing. That's how I felt while I was still on that stage and Rick looked at me and said, get rid of all that shit. He wasn't exactly a fucking sweetheart about it. He's like, nah, fuck that, too much. He told me just like it was, like it old school style, bro. I loved it. No coddling me. It was like he knew that I knew that it was too much. As if he expected better. And I felt it. It was like a football coach that you knew was right. When you fucked up a player in assignment, you know? The moment he told me what was wrong, I knew that he was right, and I couldn't wait to fix it. And I hear all the time how these comedians have an obsession with figuring out the intricacies, the ins and outs of how to make a joke work, and how they think that they have an idea, a premise, a bit, and it'll take 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 12, 13, 20, 40 times on stage until you finally realize what direction you should be going with it, what angle you should be taking it in. You know, you have to apparently love the process of figuring it out to have any chance at doing this. And that's what I'm talking about when I say that I instantly got it. I got why so many people are willing to make jack shit in pursuit of mastering this craft, ability, skill. I felt a little high, truthfully. It's a great feeling to just intrinsically want to get better at something, at anything. Whether it's something new or something you've been doing your whole life, to want to just be better at something, anything, it's a feeling that can get you fucking high. I mean, think about it. How often are we living life not really trying to get better at anything, but simply trying to maintain what we have? Whether it be maintain our lifestyle, maintain our friendships, maintain our own sanity and happiness, as opposed to improving. Maintain your job status. I don't want to get fired. Are you even happy where you work? Look, I'm not always happy where I work now, but I don't want to sound too preachy is what I'm saying, but what I do want to say is that when you do find something that drives you to want to work and get better, I don't know. I feel like it's like a weird feeling for me, because I don't know, maybe it's those moments are kind of few and far between for me sometimes. You know, like there are a couple of moments I remember that throughout my life in the past, maybe in my recent past. I feel it now with this comedy thing. I felt it when I went back to school for music, and how I learned how to not just learn shit in terms of like audio and music shit. Like, I mean, I'm doing this podcast because of what I learned at school. But also how I was learning how to DJ, or self-taught myself how to DJ at around the same time. That I had very similar feelings around that. And then also right before I went back to school, becoming a bartender was something that really felt fulfilling for me too, because I had tried. It took me so long. I guess it took me a while to go from fucking, you know, I was a bar back and food runner and server before I ever had a chance to be a bartender, and they kind of ran me through the mill a little bit there. And I'd wanted to try to be a bartender for a long time, and I wasn't even a part of the industry. You know, I was a career guy asking friends, hey, how do I become a bartender? I remember back when people still used Facebook, I was on Facebook, and Facebook Memories showed me that one year I asked at some date, I don't forgot when, Any of my friends out there that are bartenders have any advice for me on how to like get started in the business, how to get in like that or whatever. And then like 2 or 3 years later, that memory came up on, and the anniversary of that memory what just happened to fall on my first night closing a bar as a bartender all by myself. And I like shared that memory, and I was like, I'm doing it, you know. And it was that achievement, that accomplishment in bartending, that high that I got from learning how to bartend and cheers. We're doing guava jalapeno again. I like that one. I felt very fulfilled and very proud of myself when I learned and was able to be a bartender, because I didn't learn somewhere. It wasn't just me pouring beers at a brewery, I learned at a very reputable cocktail spot where I learned how to make very high-end cocktails, and I have that skill to this day. It I wouldn't be where I am today, literally. I would not be with my foot in the door for comedy if I wasn't for what I learned to be how I learned to be a bartender. That sense of achievement, of accomplishment, motivated me to do it again. And months later, I enrolled in school and started learning music production and audio engineering and all this good and fancy stuff. And I felt it again. I felt that feeling of accomplishment, of improvement, of getting better at something. I was on a fucking roll. I had lived so long, all of high school, all of college the first time around as just sad and depressed, truly. And I don't know if I've ever really been happy. I'm that type of person that when you ask them if you're happy, I answer with, what is happy? But I can tell you I'm better now, and I'm better. I was not great in high school and college. My own friends will tell you that. I've grown a lot. And I think it started with me fucking getting fired from my career and getting fired from my Monday through Friday 9 to 5, getting a job in the industry and working my ass off to become a bartender and feeling that first sense of pride in something I did, truly. And I followed it up by making myself proud of my own accomplishments again in college. And I don't think I have felt it again until recently. And college was a good 4 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, because my last class was right as the pandemic started. So it's at least 3 years now, but I went in initially 4 years ago, maybe. I felt proud getting the job at the Comedy Cellar, but going up on stage, the whole reason that I wanted to be at the Comedy Cellar was because I thought it would help doing this. So getting up on that stage, doing that first minute I've ever done. And look, I also don't take it for granted that the first time I ever had a mic in my hand and told a joke on stage, it was a Comedy Cellar stage, dude. I recorded myself doing it. There's no video of it, but there is audio of me. So somewhere there does exist audio of me attempting a joke for the first time ever. Officially. And it sucked. And you'll see everything that I had to cut out maybe someday. Not today. But I have that video. I have that audio. It's what I'm going to work on. And it reminded me of how I felt when I was in school for music. It reminded me of how I felt when I was learning how to bartend, and it felt good. It felt right, It's definitely humbling too, dude. because I told you I could have done so much better. It felt like losing in a video game, but you know you can beat the level, you know? So you just want to try again. Continue? Yes. So my homework for week 2 for tomorrow is to write a second minute of material while improving the first minute based on the feedback we received in the first class. And I'm looking very much forward to do that. I think I botched that sentence, but whatever. And I said it was humbling because I don't know if I've ever felt less funny. This past week, after getting up on stage and, you know, having a machete taken to my material and thinking about it and working on it, and I think these past 7 days, I have felt less funny these past 7 days than I have probably my entire life before, because I had way more confidence before. Isn't that crazy? I'm taking the class now. It should be building up my confidence, but I don't know. Now that I know these things, now that I know like how much better it could have been, it's like, oh man, how the fuck do I get there? It's you know, it's like you know how like when you see like people playing sports, and you're like, they suck. I could do that, but you never actually try to do that. So in your head, you'll always have this fucking mythology that you are somehow able to do what they do. You just never tried. Like I bet there's 100 people out there listening to this that fucking, yeah, like 100 people listen to this that think that they could be a good actor if they ever were in a movie. And they'll always think that if they never actually try to act in a movie. I think this is exactly the same thing. I thought I was fucking hilarious until last Sunday at around 2 p.m. when I got on stage at the Comedy Cellar, and I didn't have everyone crying from laughter immediately. Turns out it's going to take some work. Go figure. I've never felt less funny now that I tried to be funny. Does that make sense? I've never felt less funny now that I'm trying to be funny. Because you know what? I think I'm good at being funny off the cuff, you know, and I don't exactly mean improv. I just mean in a conversation. I can make you laugh based off whatever we're talking about, I think, more often than not. But you tell me to get on stage and tell you a joke, that's different, man. That's something I got to work on, something I got to find out, figure out. I've been watching a lot of stand-up comedy in the past probably 10 days. I checked out Shane Gillis's hour. What's his face? Ralph Barbosa had a hilarious hour called Cowabunga that dropped on Halloween. I definitely recommend that. Shane Gillis was solid too. I enjoyed that. What was it called? Glorious Dogs or something like that. Someone who's actually going to perform tonight at the theater at Madison Square Garden, who's one of my favorites at the Cellar, Sam Morril. I caught his stand-up, his hour on Netflix. I thought it was some of the most just like suddenly I'm going to start saying things like this in regards to stand-up. It was some of like the smartest jokes, the most well-formatted jokes that I had heard in a while, now that I know what the fuck I'm listening to. It's like listening to music once you just started learning how to read music. Like, oh, That's an F minor or whatever. I don't know. I've gone back and watched some stand-ups that I had already seen that I really enjoyed and admired and wanted to see if I could learn from. Like, I mentioned that Nate Bargatze came into the Cellar last week in preparation for his SNL hosting gig just last Saturday. So I went back and watched the Tennessee Kid. Fucking hilarious. I watched Paper Tiger by Bill Burr. Incorrigible by Chris D'Elia. What else have I watched just recently? I'm definitely missing out on a couple. Oh, Mostly Stories by Tom Segura. Yeah, I'm trying to see, because there's something else besides just the jokes. I'm trying to see what kind of energy I should be bringing to the stage. You know, should I be more laid back? Should I be more manic? I don't know. Like, I'm assuming, I feel like whatever I am on the podcast is probably going to be my persona on stage a little bit. So perhaps I'll have, I just broke these tweezers. I hope they weren't important to Val. Sorry. I'm sure I'll come up with material where it might make me fucking angry or exasperated, because God knows I've had some rants on this show before. But it's also that, it's something I got to figure out. Something as simple as, like, I don't know how to move, like how I'm going to move around on stage. Am I going to, like, walk around? Am I going to lean on something? Am I just going to stand there? I don't know. I got to figure that out too. It's like, you know how people are like, oh, what do I do with my hands? It's kind of, what do I do with my fucking hands? I don't know. What the fuck am I going to do with my hands? Here, I'm usually drinking a beer with my hands. Can I do that on stage? Is that too much? Am I not there yet? Have I not earned that yet? It's something else I've wondered. Am I going to drink before my set? I think maybe a shot and a beer and a cocktail and a joint and maybe just one square of Shoom chocolate. And if someone has Coke, I won't sniff it, but I'll put it on my gums. And if someone has a vape. That's mostly it, though. Mostly. Like a half a tab of acid. Microdose status, To be responsible. So yeah, I've never felt less funny than this past week. A little worried that I might not be a prodigy at this. It's pissing me off. A wise man once said, I don't like doing things I'm not good at. But that's the only way you get good at them, right? And then once you get good at it, you love doing it. I just don't want to bomb that first time. That's all. I'm okay with bombing after that. I kind of just want that first one to go okay. Fingers fucking crossed, man. Oh, fingers fucking crossed. Guys, be sure to rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts. Follow me at I'm Will Bryant on all platforms: Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, aka X, TikTok, Twitch, Threads, Spotify. That's 3 words. I'm Will Bryant. Bryant. Like Kobe. This has been, perhaps for the final time, Big Kid with Will Bryant. The show that used to make you feel like a kid again. I'm your host. I'm Will Bryant. And until next time, peace.